I feel foolish for refusing to welcome my sister and her children, excluding only her husband. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell to receive updates. I am 32 years old, and my father passed away 2 years ago, leaving an inheritance for me and my half-sister, which we divided equally. My sister, a homemaker with 2 kids, quickly spent her share, while I chose not to touch mine and live in the apartment I inherited from my biological mother in 2016. When my sister came seeking help, claiming her husband could no longer pay the rent, I hesitated due to our disagreements. However, she initially agreed, but the next day completely changed her stance. She argued that I was being manipulative by asking for time to think and that, being her brother, I should share my apartment and inheritance with her and the kids. I argued that the apartment belonged to my biological mother, and my half-sister had no rights to that inheritance since she already had half of our father's estate. She cried, appealing to the well-being of her children and echoing her husband's words, suggesting that I either let the family move in or provide financial support from the inheritance. I eventually agreed that she and the children could move in but excluded her husband from the equation, as he had been banned from my house due to his behavior. My sister was furious, accusing me of keeping the father of the children away from them. I explained that I am not the reason but rather his irresponsible behavior that put them in this difficult situation. Days later, I discussed the situation with my stepmother, who was shocked by my decision to cut contact. She suggested considering the well-being of the children. However, I maintained my firm stance regarding the husband, as his offensive words during the argument were unacceptable. Despite the challenges, I love my sister and have a good relationship with her, the children, and the stepmother over the years. I don't want to ruin that now, but I also cannot yield to the unjust pressures from the husband. It is unlikely that they will move in with me, even though I deeply love my sister and nephew. I treat my nieces and nephews as if they were my own children and have helped them in the past, aware of the difficulties my sister and they face. However, I am quite hurt by the way she addressed me. I realized that it was actually her husband speaking that day, as she simply repeated his words. In this situation, I feel like a fool from an operations perspective. One of the most frustrating things in an argument is when someone repeats the words of another person, even though it is clear that this is happening. I have been in similar situations where the person repeating the words doesn't even realize they are just echoing what they heard, without critically analyzing the situation. There is a fine line between being loyal to your spouse and simply turning off your brain, repeating words without thinking. It is not clear which is the case here, but the operation seems to believe it is the latter option. I feel frustration seeing the attempt to shift the blame to me for not allowing everyone to stay in the apartment without recognizing the origin of the situation. The operation seems to imply that the difficulty is not the result of unforeseen circumstances but rather because of the husband's irresponsible behavior, something she is reluctant to confront. If you were in this situation, with a sibling whose spouse you can't stand wanting to stay in your house, what would you do? The question of foolishness or not is subjective, but it is worth considering the emotional complexities involved. Regarding the story about a farmer renting land from an owner, it is an unfair situation where the farmer does all the hard work, prepares the soil, and, before the harvest, is informed that the lease will not be renewed by the owner. The latter seeks the revenue for himself, even though the farmer played a crucial role in the process. This raises questions about justice and ethics in business relationships. One of the farms near the school covered an expanse of 1,000 acres, primarily dedicated to cotton cultivation, although occasionally switching to soybeans and silage, a type of corn that doesn't require harvesting. This farm had a long-standing partnership with local schools, where students provided almost free labor to the farmer. In return, the farmer rented the property from an external owner, compensating them with a portion of the harvest revenue. My surprise was immense when, upon arriving at the farm for our work study, the farmer instructed some to prepare the sprayers and start applying herbicide to the fields, while others were tasked with using tractors, discs, and plowing the entire expanse. The farmer wanted every square inch of the fields to be just bare land again. Perplexity was widespread, but after some discussion, we began the work. It took almost a weekend to complete the task, and in the end, the field looked beautiful but barren. The farmer personally thanked each of us and paid us about $500 each, a significant amount for high school students in the 90s. Upon returning to school, we informed the principal that the contract was concluded. He informed us that the farmer would no longer work at the school and would be assigned to one of the other larger farms for the remainder of the year. Our work-study proceeded normally for 2 or 3 months before controversies arose about why we were instructed to destroy the harvest. Although they were just rumors, the way things unfolded for the farmer suggested there was some truth to it. Apparently, the landowner decided not to renew the lease for the farmer, an outcome that coincided a few weeks before the start of the harvesting season. Knowing that the average cotton farmer earns around $1,500 per acre, a 1,000-acre farm would yield $1.5 million to the owner, with about $500,000 being pure profit. We didn't know the exact value of the farmer's lease, but it was clear that it was far from that amount. The owner found a legal trick. He allowed the farmer to plant a robust crop and then refused to renew the lease. The farmer chose to leave the plants in the field, preventing the owner from profiting from his hard work. This revenge came at a high cost for the farmer, who had to sell almost everything he owned to acquire another property. However, he proved his point when the owner tried to sue him but without success. The court determined that since the farmer was still under lease when the land was cultivated, it was his prerogative to decide what to do, invalidating the owner's claims. This experience provided me with a valuable lesson, not only about agriculture but also about the complexities of power dynamics. The lesson learned is never to provoke someone who has nothing to lose. An additional note about the current culture is that cotton is one of the few crops that leave a negative nutritional value in the soil. This means that after the harvest, even if you cultivate the dead plants or even cultivate before harvesting, you won't have as many nutrients as you started with. That's why farmers plant another crop, usually winter wheat, on the site and then plow it instead of harvesting. This is known as green manure, and it serves to replenish the nutrients that cotton has depleted from the soil. Without this additional treatment, any crop planted on that land will not yield the same per acre output as a comparable crop would have harvested and a secondary crop planted. The owner was reckless in acting this way with the land. What he tried to do to the farmer was dirty. Basically, he tried to get a year of free work before the harvest to extract a full $1.5 million profit or a $500,000 profit without doing the hard work necessary to complete the entire operation. I am pleased that the farmer acquired his own land, but the owner really pushed him and tried to deceive him dishonestly. If he had allowed the farmer to renew the lease until the end of the harvesting season, perhaps he could have regained the land more acceptably, without depleting all its nutrients and destroying it. Now, regarding your situation, it's a complex dilemma. You are not a fool for refusing to help your parents, even if they are facing serious medical issues and may end up homeless. Your trajectory after being disinherited by your parents shows that you have been able to build your own life and achieve success, overcoming obstacles. However, the decision to help them or not depends on deep reflection on your family relationships, personal values, and the ability to establish healthy boundaries. Each choice will have its consequences, and there is no one-size-fits-all answer to this kind of situation. They face difficulties, living in an old trailer. Additionally, my mother has been diagnosed with diabetes, and my father has always had heart problems. Now, they seek my help, but I refused. To me, they are no longer parents, and according to their church's religion, my money was obtained through practices considered sinful. Using it would condemn their souls to hell, something I do not wish for them. My mother started crying, and my father expressed not knowing where they went wrong with me. That was our last interaction. Some aunts and uncles contacted me, but the family support quickly unraveled. I asked why they weren't helping, but family assistance fell apart rapidly. Now, a few weeks later, I'm starting to feel that perhaps I was hasty in refusing help. The income from a month of stripping would make a big difference for them, while I would hardly miss that amount. I feel foolish for not helping my parents, even in the face of the possibility of them becoming homeless and dealing with serious health issues. Sometimes, people can ignore their principles when desperate. The OP begins to experience a growing sense of guilt. Even if the money was earned in an unacceptable way before, the urgency of the situation may require help, regardless of the money's origin. Under their beliefs, I am now seen as a wicked, sinful child profiting in a terrible manner. My refusal to help them confirms their opinion of me. If I still feel discomfort and want to mess with their heads, I can help them and seek reconciliation. show that, despite being considered the fallen one, I had more compassion in their times of need than they, the God-fearing saints, had for me. I don't deserve to carry guilt for them and the money. Reflecting, I realize that, indirectly, this money comes from that sinful origin, especially through the apartment building I own, originally paid with that money but changed hands over time. I presume I am no longer dancing, as mentioned it being a short-lived career. Regarding the hospital situation, you are not a fool for leaving after your husband called his mother instead of you. Each person reacts differently in stressful moments. If it bothered you, it may be helpful to talk to your husband about your feelings, seeking mutual understanding. Open communication can help avoid misunderstandings and strengthen the relationship. I was bothered and realized that all that waiting and stress were happening while I was ignored. The nurse informed that he was still not fully awake and was spontaneously calling for his mother insistently. It seemed like I was not the primary concern, and that deeply irritated me. I wanted to go home, so I decided to leave after waiting for about 10 minutes. His mother called after I left, mentioning that she had left the room so I could have some time with him. However, I could barely wait and returned home. She claimed that this was not right, arguing that I lost control for no apparent reason. I explained that her son acted as if I wasn't present, but she insisted that he couldn't be blamed for something he couldn't control. I felt she was unfairly accusing me, putting the blame on me for a misunderstanding between us. I interrupted the conversation when I realized she somehow blamed me for not being recognized and ignored. Later, her husband sent a message, claiming that I was being hostile without reason and should focus on my husband's health instead of acting petty. However, I believe I didn't act pettily and, therefore, question if I am the fool for leaving the hospital after my husband called his mother instead of me. It seems the OP is attributing full responsibility to the husband, who had just come out of surgery and wasn't fully lucid. The nurse even explained this, but the OP was upset and left because the mother arrived first. It seems their concern is more focused on their discomfort waiting than on the well-being of the husband undergoing surgery. One of the responses mentioned a similar case, where a person, under the influence of anesthesia and painkillers, started asking for a mother who had passed away decades ago. The OP wonders if the husband simply wanted to see his mother, which is not condemnable. In light of this, I ask, what would you do in this situation? Would it be a foolish move or not, and why? When subscribing, be sure to activate notifications to receive all stories through the link in the description. Thank you all for watching until the end of this video on my channel HistoReddit. If you enjoyed the content, please share it with your friends and family. Don't forget to subscribe, leave your like, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. Your support is essential. Until next time.